in-depth coverage of the State of the Union address continues. Joining us in studio this morning is our 12 News political analyst, Joe Fleming. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
All right, Joe, busy night last night,
Yep.
Long speech. Let's talk about the first 15 minutes or so, the president focusing on what's going on in Ukraine, placing the blame squarely on Vladimir Putin and what the U.S. will do to support this effort as far as the Ukrainians defending their country. How do you think he handled this so far?
Well, I think first off, it was a speech he didn't expect to give 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it was something different. I think he handled it well last night. I think about a week or so ago, people felt that he really was weak on the sanctions he was going to do to Ukraine, against Ukraine from the Russians. But now the Russians are in a situation where they're getting a lot of sanctions, and the president is increasing these sanctions more and more every day. So I think it's a big plus for him. Also, we had unity last night on this issue, and that's the key. How often do we see the Democrats and Republicans being together on an issue? This is one issue they are united on.
That's very true. All right, so continuing on with the war in Ukraine here, certainly it's expected to make inflation worse in our country. You know, the price of gas, price of food going up. You know, the president said last night that that was his top issue. So how do you think he did in explaining the problem and the work he's proposing to fix it?
Well, I don't think he did that well. I think he could have done better last night. He said, you know, we've got to bring the cost of prices down. Well, how is he going to do that? He didn't really put a lot of meat on the bones last night when we talked about inflation. Everyone talks about bringing the cost of items down, but how are you going to do it? That's what people want to know. They want to know about the gas prices. How is that going to be brought down? The president has to address that more over the next couple of weeks.
And shifting gears, Joe, the president also focused on the pandemic, saying COVID no longer has control over our lives thanks to vaccines and new developments on the antiviral drugs. So do you think this new normalcy or a return to normalcy will be soon and able for Democrats to overcome issues like inflation as we look towards the midterms? Well,
there's going to be a lot of issues the Democrats have to overcome. COVID is one of them. Obviously, you've seen the president now saying we got to keep all the schools open. Something a lot of moderates and conservatives wanted to have all along. So the president's changing his tone some on these issues. And that's going to hopefully help him with the Democrats in the midterm elections. Also, we talked about, you know, let's not defund the police. Let's fund the police. Let's talk about border security. These are issues that have hurt Democrats over the last couple of years. The president is now moving more towards the middle on these issues to try to help the Democratic Party come November.
All right, so last question, Joe. Was there something that you wanted to hear from the president last night that maybe he didn't say, or something you thought that he should have spent more time on for the American people?
Again, going back to inflation. Right now, that's the number one issue people are concerned about. The cost of everything, getting goods to the store, market shelves being empty. They want to know what the president's going to do to help solve these problems, and I don't think he addressed that fully enough last night.
All right, Joe, certainly a lot to sort out, a lot on the table here for the president during that address last night. We appreciate you going through some of those moments for us. You can find in-depth coverage if you happen to miss the State of the Union on our website at WPRI.com.
Thank you, Joe.
Our in-depth coverage of the State of the Union address continues now. Joining us live in studio, here's our 12 News political analyst, Joe Fleming.
All right, Joe, a lot to get to from the president's speech. He spent the first about 15 minutes or so focused on the war in Ukraine. Obviously, he needed to do that. What did you think of his initial kind of, broad brush statement when it comes to the United States' position with the war?
I think it was a good introduction for him. I think he talked about Ukraine. I think he positioned the United States well. He said we're going to defend NATO, but we're not going to send troops into Ukraine. We're going to do everything but that. And so far, he has been doing that. He's got the Western Hemisphere to really support what's going on in Ukraine, and Russia's becoming isolated. So Joe Biden's done a good job with that. I think he explained that well last night.
And you were saying, too, it was really one of the only moments where it was sort of a united front in front of Congress.
He had bipartisan support. You saw Republicans and Democrats standing up, supporting this. And that's what you need when you're dealing with foreign policy. You do not need a divided country. You want a united country. He had that last night.
Another question about the war in Ukraine. Certainly we know it's going to impact inflation here at home as we see, gas prices, food prices affected, et cetera. The president said last night that that was his top issue. So he's addressing that it's a problem, but you're not so sure that he offered great solutions on this, right?
No, I think he could have done more on that. He basically said, we got to get the prices to come down. Well, that's obvious. He said we want to build more in the United States, and in turn, that's going to make products cheaper. However, give me more details about that. How are you going to do that? I think over the next couple weeks, he has to explain that more to the people in this country so they can feel comfortable about getting inflation down. They see it every day in the markets. They see it in the gas prices, and that's going to hurt the Democrats down the road when you come to November.
And as we come out of this pandemic, Joe, the president addressing that, where the country is And that sort of a situation obviously has an effect on the economy, but with it not controlling our lives, as the president liked to say, because of new antiviral drugs, do you think a return to normalcy, hopefully, will be enough for Democrats to overcome issues like inflation as we look ahead to the midterms?
Well, it may not be enough. Inflation is the one issue that's standing out right now. COVID is going a little in the background, but if a new variant comes out, it's going to push it right to the front again. The president's supporting making sure schools are open, getting rid of masks if possible. So he's doing things that a lot of people like. The question is, though, is COVID going to come back? We don't know that. But the inflation right now is going ahead of COVID at this point. People are concerned about their pocketbooks.
Right. All right. One last question. Was there something that you wanted to hear from the president, maybe that you didn't, or something that you thought he should have spent more time talking about other than, you know, the inflation solutions?
Well, that's the one thing I think he should have spent more time talking about, inflation solutions. I think he could have spent a little more time on the Ukraine issue also, went into a little more detail there. He doesn't want to tip his hand too much as far as what other sanctions he might do on Russia, so I can see why he held back a little bit there. But those are the two areas I think he could have expanded a little bit more on.
All right, Joe, we appreciate your insight. A lot to sort through during that address last night. And if you missed the State of the Union, we want to let you know we have it posted online at WPRI.com.
All right, thank you, Joe.